Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Explain at the beginning so whoever comes in.
Welcome to people that are just watching the video. We tried a whole new configuration, trying to please a lot of different parts of our community, and it didn't work. And in the hubbub, we forgot to record the beginning. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm marking where we came in, and I'll do a second individual take, because it's not that long. If I just focus on, I think I'll just focus on the democracy, unless there's by popular demand, you people that are just follow on video, if you want to know about California water and air, let me know, and we'll make it up to you. Okay, so corruption perceptions. I won't spend any time on this, but for scientists like Homer, they can understand how you can come up with a line like this. Just to get down to some theory on why the financial crisis had a lot to do with it. There was a lot of opportunism, and so the United States, as the leader of the free world, we delivered a 1-2 punch, first with Iraq, I think, and then the second is letting our finance community start gambling with derivatives. Terrible. So I think the world doesn't trust us anymore, and it's not. You don't have to look very far to find reasons. I thought we'd pretty much blown it with Vietnam. Little did I know that we in this century we'd make that worse. But you know, hegemons aren't meant to last forever, and I'm going to say our day is past, but that doesn't mean democracy's past. That's my major point that I want to make today. There's still hope for democracy, even if we find there's no hope in these United States. Maybe we could be wrong, but let's hope we are. Unfortunately, in I can't say the third world anymore. I've been reprimanded by young people for that. The new phrase is global South. The global South remembers colonial rule for sure, and of course South America remembers our interference in Latin America. But the worst example, I think, of kleptocrat is Jacob Zuma when he was in charge of South Africa. Nelson Mandela was such a hopeful character, and you thought, yeah, it could be the end of history. This guy will lead Africa on, and then you get a guy like Jacob Zuma. Go figure. And then you get the Wagner group all over Africa, especially Mali. Mali was a symbol of hope for a while. My next door neighbor did medical work, volunteers in clinics in Mali, and he's had his heart broken. Then Xi Jinping is no longer following the advice of Deng Xiaoping, which was to bide your time, keep your strengths well hidden. And he's certainly doing the opposite and playing the nationalist card. an almost paranoid way, some people believe. We can, that's a loaded word, and we can certainly debate that. But he and his propagandists are attacking universal values, the sort of values that we associate with Bretton Woods and the United Nations Statement on Human Rights. They're saying no, that's Western universal values. And if you look really close, China's playing the race card. The West is just talking about universal values to promote the interests of Europeans and Americans. And so he's had his problems. We've been dealing almost a year now, I think, when we had our first session with what does China want? And in that year, a lot has happened. So I think we caught a wave of an important story. Yeah, Jim.
I just wanted to circle back to colonialism and U.S. interference. It's not limited to the global South or South America. You need look no further than Puerto Rico. Enough said.
I'll hasten to add that Jim's Aunt Ruth was a leading activist in America on behalf of an independent Puerto Rico. Is that a fair summary, Jim?
Well, absolutely. She was jailed for 19 months with the McCarthyism in full swing. Later found that conviction to have been overturned by the Puerto Rican Supreme Court, and the law upon which she was sentenced found unconstitutional. So, yes, I have a little history there.
Good. I love it. That's any other personal stories? We love it. Okay, so we've been documenting in detail the problem that China's having demographically with their economy, the disaster of zero COVID. We're just beginning to see the discrepancy between expected mortality and reported mortality. You can hide COVID as a cause of disease, but you can't hide people dying quite as easily. And so this is the VDEM. Those of you that have been with us for a while, I'll go. I just want to go through this quickly. If you want to read something interesting, read their executive summary report. Got a lot of good graphics on the state of democracy, and they've been following this very closely, in particular the last 20 years. And here's what they follow. So it's quite detailed. The parameters, it's really solid social science, and they pull in a lot of data. But the conclusion, the sad conclusion, is the countries that could be considered democratizing on the upward slope has fallen. 20 years ago, there were 43 countries that were on the road to democracy, and now there's fewer. So as I said before, especially in the last 10 years, 35 countries are really going down. I think the examples here's Turkey, their international spelling in Turkish. But all these other countries, including Nigeria, and of course the Philippines, which you might say has been in our sphere of influence, but that in the same kind of imperialism that Puerto Rico has experienced. Just read Mark Twain on that. And we've slid all the way back to where democracy was in 1986. That's pretty depressing. And that was the year that Reagan met Gorbachev. More on that in just a second. So it's a little bit from all around the world, but these countries have really descended into one man rule. If not one man, one small group of influencers, this is converse the number of countries that are autocratizing, if you will. So it's going up. And the world population. So this is where the autocrats in the global south have been taking off. Autocrats control now a majority of the world's population, and that India and China by themselves, and so there you go. Last 10 years. I'm going through this pretty quick, but you can pull up the report and spend more time with it.
3 o'clock.
Huh?
3 o'clock.
Okay, but we didn't get started till 3:15 because of my incompetence. So this map is similar to the Economist map, no surprise. So you asked where the United States ranks. It still rates a blue. You could argue. But look at Mexico. Look at Peru, and of course Venezuela and Nicaragua. Right.
I think that's Bolivia that is red, or not Peru.
Oh, Bruce.
Bolivia.
It's Bolivia, not Peru, that is more pink or red.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bruce.
Yeah, a question for you is, are you following at all what's been going on in essentially the the news currently about with regard to the abortion situation, and how basically many counties now are not letting people out of the county, so you don't have free travel, and so talk about autocracy. It's kind of happening right here in the U.S.
What states is that? Texas?
It's I think it's in the several in the south.
I think it's Idaho. Idaho is trying to.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them that are actually, I think, putting it on, and it is particularly related to the abortion issue, I believe, and how you cannot give a person a ride out of state to get an abortion. You can't. There's the issue about suing. Turning people in. This is kind of like going into East Germany back in the day when, you couldn't trust your neighbor because they're likely to turn you in to the authorities. Yeah, it's kind of really weird.
Well,
Yeah, if you read Heather Cox Richardson, she's been drawing a lot of analogies between these new laws either being considered or passed and the fugitive slave laws that
Yes.
were before the Civil War.
I think that was her article today, wasn't it? So
I haven't read her today, but she's been on this theme for a while.
Wow.
I-
Well, I think they're overplaying their hand, just like our side has overplayed its hand in a lot of respects. But the last election, pro-abortion, not pro-choice side did pretty well. And yeah,
Yes,
I haven't looked.
Jim,
Well, I can't resist. You can get out of Texas if you get on a bus to LA or Sacramento.
I don't think that's true with what they're trying to do.
No, I'm talking about Texas and Florida sending migrants to.
Oh, I see. Yeah, okay.
The not pregnant ones.
Well, they don't know if they're pregnant, and they don't know where they're being sent half the time. So
Can I bring up a question I have, and it's on this map where Israel is shown as being, I guess, light blue. And they're always claiming that they're the only democracy, quote unquote, in the Middle East. And I wonder how the color would change if Netanyahu's attempts to stifle the Supreme Court. I mean, would you consider that country becoming an autocracy?
I think it's moving that way.
I mean, they may say that, like many of these countries, oh, we have free elections and so on. But basically, Israel sounds like it's moving in the direction of becoming an autocracy as well.
Yeah. You also got to compare with what's around it, because Saudi Arabia does not compare to Mexico or Canada, for example. So there may be a relative scale of democracy.
Yeah, but I mean, when I look at this map, the shading of Israel is similar to, I don't know, some other countries. And I mean, we could get into it. It's a whole nother story, but it just struck me that their color could change.
Yeah. Yeah. Look what's around them too. It's all red.
Supposedly, we can get way off the subject, but this thing with Israel signing some kind of agreements with Saudi Arabia and the Abraham Accords or whatever, if that's going to make anything better in that area, that's a whole nother subject.
John, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have we lost John?
Sorry, sorry. I muted us, and so I thought I was muting us.
this happens in our household all the time.
Happens in mine too.
We have a neighbor who has a T-shirt that says, "You're on mute."
just another expression of cancel culture.
Yeah, there you go. Sonia, that would be Mackenzie, who I think you've met. He's got that T-shirt. Okay, so this is just another way of viewing that. I think we hear the ones that are autocratizing stand out a little bit more. And so we talked about India, we've talked about Turkey, we've talked about Hungary. I think we've talked about the sad evolution of either Tunisia or Libya. Somebody can help me here, but Libya is in a state of warfare, so I don't know.
That's Libya.
As is Oman. Obviously, Southeast Asia, unfortunately, has had some backward steps as well. That was once seen as a bulwark. But Thailand and Cambodia, oh my goodness. Burma, the military. So and here's we mentioned before about changing shades. So VDIM has us pink. So I think that turns out to be maybe number 40 to 50 in the world. And this is another graphic of that, and the different countries and the 10-year trajectories. Even the 3-year trajectories are sobering. So the age of the strong man, you've seen this slide many times. We've been living through an age, and history doesn't pronounce the age until 10 to 20 years after it's been around a while. So I think that's where we are. And America, where are we in this average of 336 years for civilizations to survive? And how did they go? The rise and fall of the Romans, why did they splinter? That's the famous case that we grew up with in history, but I think new books are being written as we speak. So this might be a good place to stop. What do you think?
3:12.
3:12. So we've been going an hour. I'm sorry. We actually spent 20 minutes this morning doing a trial run, and we thought we'd worked out all the bugs. So, but we didn't. So once again, for those of you who came late, I'll record something special of the first 20 minutes. Okay. Comments.
I have somebody sent me an interesting article, and this might be worthy of discussion, but it's an article about what's happened to the UN's ability to mediate. One of the things with a lot of these problems that I think we used to think of the United Nations was going to help work through and resolve and mediate. And in all these various discussions, the United Nations well, I think you mentioned it once. It's like it's no longer important in what's going on.
Yeah. You're mute, Homer.
Is it just a problem with having Russia a member of the Security Council? Didn't they have the head of the Security Council in rotation recently?
Yeah.
And so the nation that invades Ukraine can effectively block through the Security Council anything the UN tries to do about it.
Yeah. You know, the interesting thing about Ukraine is they have their own vote, and even had it during Soviet days. The Russians insisted that Ukraine be given a vote, just a way of ramping up their influence. So this notion that Ukraine is not an entity is screwy.
Shall I stop the recording?
I know.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Great summary.
Thanks,
Josh.
John.
Thank you, John.
Well, thank you for the being patient with us.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Stopping the recording.